Welcome to our Navigating a Career in Networks events. So my name is Laura and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. And just a bit of housekeeping before we start, just to let you know that the session will be recorded today. And we really want you to get involved. So you'll see there will be a QR code on your screen. So please do submit any questions that you've got for our guests and our speakers today. We want to make this interactive. We want to hear from you and hear your questions. Just a brief overview of our agenda. So it's going to be jam-packed. We've got some amazing guests and speakers joining. So first up, we're going to be speaking to Yago Torio, and he's going to be telling us all about Open RAN at Vodafone. And there's also going to be that opportunity to ask him questions. So again, please do use the Menti code to submit the questions. We'll then move into a very short break. And when we come back, we'll come into our panel discussion. And we've got 4 inspirational leaders joining us. And again, we're going to have that brilliant opportunity to post questions and ask the panel a Q&A. So as mentioned, first up, we're going to be joined by Yago. So you can see Yago here. He's a fellow and the director of network architecture at Vodafone. Now, Yago and his team delivers the strategy and architecture of the fixed and mobile network. And his team's mission is to lead the company into network as a platform transformation, drive our Open RAN in the industry, and shape the 5G evolution. Now, Yago and his team are recognised as one of the most innovative, and we saw you all say innovative in that word cloud, innovative and influential teams in the mobile industry. And it's driven Vodafone to be one of the first European operators to announce the first deployment of Open RAN at scale for 4G and 5G. Yago is here to talk all about this and share some of his 20 years experience. So Yago, over to you to tell us all about Open RAN and Vodafone.
Thank you so very much, Laura. Thank you. I got slightly worried when you said 20 years of experience. I tend to forget that. They're actually more than 20. They're closer to 30 in the company now. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Always excited to talk about Open RAN, which is a trending topic. And given that the whole topic of the day is navigating a career, I thought I would try and give like the story of Open RAN a different spin that is more based on, yeah, navigating career in networks and my own career as well. Now, I mean, I can't possibly say that kind of Open RAN kind of made my career. I do have a career, yes. I'm very happy, very fortunate, and very proud. And no doubt Open RAN was a factor in it. And it's almost inevitable if you Google my name. I think 9 hits out of 10 talk about Open RAN. I thought we would start just by explaining what Open RAN is, just in case we may have people who are experts, then in that case, forgive me, but we also may have people who never heard of it. So just 2 minutes on what Open RAN is and why. So on the left, you have a traditional base station, and on the right, you have an Open RAN one. A base station, as you know, is like the last element on the network that interfaces with all our mobile phones through the airwaves. So traditionally, and traditionally means, yes, forever, like the last 35 years, we've built the radio network with a closed kind of system that we call base station, on which both the baseband, which is like the processing unit, as well as the radio hardware itself, which you can see there on the antenna or single RAN radio unit, they were all coming from the same vendor. So it's like a closed ecosystem you can buy from Huawei, from Ericsson, from Nokia, and you deploy it on site. And that architecture is called single RAN. It's super cool. It brought us to where we are. There's nothing wrong with it. However, it has a series of, well, you know, areas where it could be better. The first one is everything is locked in, meaning that if you want to change vendors, you have to go to every site, dismantle the equipment, and put a new equipment in, which is messy. Bear in mind that only in Europe we have 100,000, give or take, 100,000 sites. So If you want to change vendor in all of them, you have to go to 100,000 places, remove the antennas, remove the radios on the tower, remove the equipment, and install a new one. That is very disruptive, and it's not very fluid. Now, there is another problem, so to say, which is over time, the number of vendors and the number of options available in the industry has been reducing progressively. So when I started in the radio many years ago, as we were saying, probably 25 or 30 years ago, I remember we had like not short of maybe 15 different vendors from, on the pool from where you can choose, which vendor you want to deploy. Most of them are gone. So you may remember names like Motorola, Alcatel, Lucent, Siemens. They through consolidation or else, the number of choices were reduced to actually, you have 4 logos there, but we don't use ZTE, so we have 3 options. And as you know, one player is geopolitically challenged. So in many markets, like the UK, for instance, you only have 2 choices. That is a big problem because this is the area where most of the money goes, actually. So when you look at the bucket of money spent and invested of any mobile operator, the radio always account for almost, in some cases, more than half of it in terms of CapEx, also in terms of OpEx. So for an area that is so important in terms of spend, having only 2 choices is not enough. So you need more choices. And of course, you can keep the architecture and add maybe one more logo to it, but the industry direction hasn't been like that for the last few years. Now, on the right, you have the Open RAN idea, which is nothing more, nothing less than simply disaggregating all this and having the antennas or the radios from one vendor, the software from a different vendor, and the processing, the CPU, from off-the-shelf, say, general purpose computing. That gives way to many more players to come and play. That also breaks the lock-in. You can, at least the concept is, now reality will see, how quickly we can get it. But the concept is you can change the software without touching the hardware, or you can change one element without changing the other. So there is more fluidity. And that's why, the whole idea kind of got some traction. So that is Open RAN. Now, at this point, let me stop and just have a couple of reflections on career, if Open RAN is clear. And remember, you can ask questions through Menti at any time. So just move to the next slide and let me comment briefly. If we are talking about careers, one very good way to build your career is to find a problem that needs a solution. And then you need to elevate, adequately adjust the risk profile that you're going to be taking. Knowing that a career is normally not built out of a happy idea or an invention, it's built out of making things happen. So if you find a problem, it can be an industry problem, a company problem, or a problem in your domain, and if you think you can solve it, then you have in front of you a great opportunity to build a career. And that would be just one reflection. We'll come back to this. Now, another one that I want to leave you with on the next slide is that what I just said about Open RAN, which is disaggregating components and having a general purpose processing capacity running a software and then some open interface, just going to the radio. Well, that is as old as telecommunications themselves, right? So if you go back to how the mainframe computer was eventually turning into, the ecosystem of server and software that we know today, or even the personal computer, that goes back probably to the 60s and the 70s. So this idea is not new, and you could say, and you'd be right, is obvious. But just because it's obvious, it doesn't mean that it's not worth trying, because clearly no one else were doing it, so it needed to be done. So again, and we'll come back to this later, it's not about who had the idea, it's about who's making it happen when it comes to career. So let me just briefly start then with the story of Open RAN at Vodafone. And let me ask you a question while you ask yours in Menti. If you think of the origin of this, how how kind of long, how many years back you think that we have to go? Is this a 2 years old idea, 5 years old idea, 3 years old idea? Next slide, please. It's a 10 years old idea, actually. So as far as I know, the first time I hear Open Run was in 2014. And I know very well because the first time I heard the name was from my friend and colleague, Paco Martin, who was working with me in actually experimenting running radio workloads on Intel CPUs in the lab. So yes, we actually came up with the idea of Open Run. Not only that, we gave it the name. And that was 10 years ago. Now, after that, on the early years of Open Run, no one that I know heard of it publicly until November 2017, when we as Vodafone decided to join TIP, the Telecom Infra project. And I remember giving a keynote in Santa Clara in the US, talking about Open Run for the first time. And people were looking at me as if I was an alien and I didn't know what I was saying or something. So that was the first time that Open Run got talked about. And from 2014 to 2017, what was going on is that we were maturing the idea, obviously, and trying to kind of test and understand its potential. By the time we decided to join TIP, it was clear that it had potential. And shortly after that, what we did was to sign a memorandum of understanding with the main European operators to agree that this was the direction of travel. Now, just let me stop there, right there, and again take a couple of reflections on career and my observations on a few things here. If you go to the next slide, first thing, I just said that we invented Open Run in 2014. And I'm sure you didn't know that because we never spoke about that in public. The first thing we do after that, well, was mature it, of course, during 3 years. And the next step we took was to erase our name from it and contribute all the progress to a non-for-profit organization without our authorship at all. So we gave up on being the authors of the idea, and we donated it to almost a white label non-for-profit organization of our own choosing that was TIP at that point. At that point, by the way, Oran Alliance didn't even exist yet because the Open Run concept wasn't a thing. Now, why would you do that? And what does that have to do with career? Well, as the headline reads, in my view, and I am a firm believer of this, there is no single person, team, or company that can actually drive the industry to change entirely. And this was as big as that. This is not a minor thing. This is not something that Vodafone can do on his own, or Telefonica, or Orange, or anybody else, for what matters. This is an industry decision. So if what you have in front of you is the ambition to drive the industry to change the way mobile networks are rolled out to a completely different thing, the first thing you need to do is to give up on that being your idea to your credit, because otherwise it's never going to happen. Do you think that the vendors on the right or the other operators on the left, they're going to adopt it for your own glory or for the glory of Vodafone? No, that's never going to happen. So the first thing we did was to erase our name from it. The second thing we did was to sign a memorandum of understanding with the operators that you see on the left, so that is not only us, it's not just us. The other observation I will make is, please, on the next slide. As I said, the story begins 10 years ago. And I don't know what you thought when I asked you how long ago this started. But for the majority of the people I talked to, 10 years is too long. And they all think Open Run is happening too slowly versus their expectations. So let me tell you one thing. The problem here is with their expectations, because we had very clear since the very beginning, we had a plan. And the plan looks very much like what's happening today. We never thought it was going to be happening faster. And the reason is that technology happens at the speed of humans, not at the speed of technology. And again, I'm a firm believer of this, and I recommend you actually think of it and adopt it as your own mantra, because it can save you from a lot of frustrations. And I'll give you an example, which is on the screen. So in 2019, I had the pleasure to speak at the Singularity University, which is an absolutely overwhelming event full of speakers better than me. And I was presenting what I thought could be the next breakthrough kind of technologies happening on telco in the next 5 years from 2019. One example I made was the democratization of coverage, meaning that we could make it as cheap and as affordable as Wi-Fi and rolling out Wi-Fi is for everybody today. And I was just throwing this kind of provocation that maybe the next breakthrough on 5G is already under development as somebody's school project. Now, I had more information than the audience because actually that was the case. So the next breakthrough on 5G was already under development as my son's school project with a Raspberry. And I was part of that. And we had a project going on that eventually ended in 2023 when we presented an entire 5G network with radio and core squeezed into a Raspberry Pi on a device that I'm holding in my hands. Well, that's a prototype. The final device is more beautiful than that. That actually costs in production more or less the same as your Wi-Fi router. Now, that was last year in 2023, and yeah, it got a lot of kind of attention in Mobile World Congress, but we are in 2024, and that's not rolled out yet. So 5 years after that prediction, that wasn't a prediction because I was doing it, this thing, there is demand, but it's not rolled out massively just yet. By the way, advertisement, it'll become available online in June, so you can place your orders on the Lime web. You can go there and buy 1 or 2 or 10. But it's taking 5 years. Even if you can think it's a great idea, even if you think there is demand for it, it still moves at the speed of humans, not at the speed of technology. So quickly, next slide. Let me tell you how the story continued with Open RAN at Vodafone. So we left it when we were actually donating the idea into TIP and agreeing with the other operators that this was the way to go. What happened next is that, of course, we had gathered enough information, facts, and data to know that it was the right time for Open RAN to make a debut and to roll it out and put it in commercial service to our customers. Careful, we don't take that lightly. So we don't play with the performance that we offer to our customers. So by the time you get to that point, you are very sure that this thing is going to work. So we announced an RFQ in the UK in 2020. We awarded the vendors, and the first site was live before the 2021 was ended. Now, every single milestone on the screen is super relevant. You see the first site in the what we call the golden cluster is a urban, dense urban cluster in the UK. It came up in 2022. The first massive MIMO, which is the super high capacity 5G antenna, is the most complex thing that you can actually do. The first site was brought up slightly more than a year ago. And the volume rollout, meaning that everything is checked, everything is okay, the performance is good, and we are ready to go volumes, was announced in July 2023. In between this, we made a very relevant and significant announcement in Mobile World Congress 2022 when Johan, at that time, he said, by the end of the decade, our ambition is to have 30% of our European footprint with Open RAN. Now, this is the logical sequence of events. And as I was saying, this timing is exactly the one that we had anticipated. And you can go, it's public because we talked publicly about our plan when we announced the RFQ and even before. So you can go back to 2020 and 2019 And you will see that what has happened after that was exactly what we said it would happen after that. Now, still, the industry thinks this is slower than expectations, but let me highlight again that is a problem with expectations, not with the reality. Still, it's very interesting to look at what was happening in the meantime while we were doing this, deploying, making it happen slowly, gathering data, making sure that it worked well enough for our customers. What was happening in the industry around us? Pretty much until we announced the RFQ, the Open RAN concept was followed with interest and overly ignored. So people were curious about it, but no one had an opinion. When we started to making it happen, do you know what happened? Just flip to the next slide. What happened is, and I brought a couple of examples taken from the press, but believe me, if you just Google this up, there are like 1,000 different examples. What happened during these years at this phase is that the industry started to throw stones at it, and the industry polarized itself into like adopters and apostles and haters. And the haters would hate like with actually very well and with a lot of with a lot of power. So first it was things like you can read on the screen, or that it was consuming a lot of power, or the performance wasn't good, or that it was a risk from a security perspective. As the years kind of were passing, the problem was shifting from one to the other, without interruption. And before you could actually argue one of the problems or prove them wrong, another one was surfacing. Now, do you really want to prove them wrong is the question. So what do you do at this stage? Do you engage in a fight? Do you just just answer? No. You need to remember, what do you want? Remember the ambition that we talked about before, and remember your career, maybe build on making this happen. What does it mean making it happen? It means that the industry adopts it as the architecture of choice. And the players that are throwing stones at you are part of the industry, an important part of the industry. So, first, of course, do you listen to them? Yes, you listen to them because they maybe some, part of the feedback you want to use, but you can also appreciate they may have their own agenda, meaning that, these people need a space for their own business to succeed. It's like, imagine the electrical car coming to Europe a few years ago, and then you are kind of driving Mercedes or BMW to adopt it overnight. And then they have to drop their diesel engine to start doing electric or hybrid. Well, that's not going to happen because it's not the best for the business. Remember also that the architecture that we are using, single RAN, is got absolutely nothing wrong. Is that there are some things that are better on the new one. It's an evolution. Also remember that we said our ambition is 30% of Open RAN by the end of the decade, which implicitly it also means that 70% will stay with single RAN for now. Then maybe on the next decade is 100%. For all those reasons and more, the right answer to this is not to engage in a fight or polarize the industry and feed the polarization on two camps. The right outcome, and the only right outcome of this, is everybody embracing it and agreeing that is the right thing to do, including the critics. And that's exactly what we did. Now, it took us, the best part of the following 5 years, but look even at the right side bottom of the screen. In 2023, October, Nokia announced that they're doing an Open RAN pilot with us. They are the same ones that, 2020, 21, and 22, they weren't happy with the idea. And furthermore, you know what? After that, Ericsson announced that they would follow suit and they would do Open RAN as well. So where are we now? If you flip to the next slide, we are in a place where now no one doubts Open RAN is happening. Now people discuss about the timing, when is it happening, at what speed is happening, where is it going to happen? Okay, but no one doubts it is happening. There is a great commercial momentum. You can see the trials and deployments going on in Europe beyond what we are doing in Vodafone. Of course, we still have our 2,500 site project in the UK, which is so far the biggest in Europe. We have the only urban deployment in Europe. The performance of that deployment is equal or better than the legacy equipment we are substituting. The energy consumption is better than what we had in place. So we have all the facts with us. We have all the KPIs, and that's an important part of the discussion. We do have other activities in Europe going on as well, but we are not the only ones. So Telefonica, Orange, T-Mobile, TIM, they all have their own, particular either small deployments or trials going on. And outside of Europe, you may have heard like AT&T in the US, for instance, gave their entire network to an Open RAN deal to Ericsson, which is a great development as well. So is it happening? Yes, it is happening. I think we are reaching our ambition. Now, is it over? No, it's not over yet. And if you flip to the final slide, you see how the story continues, but it hasn't finished. So we just announced an RFQ for, please go to the next slide, as is telling thank you. We just announced an RFQ in February that we call Spring 6 is our name. Don't blame us for that. The previous one was Spring 5 and the previous Spring 4. So it's called Spring 6, yes. It was just kicked off. It has all Europe and Africa in scope. That is 170,000 sites. And we said 30% would be Open RAN by the end of 2030. We really mean it. And Spring 6 and this RFQ is our way of delivering it. Now, it's not done until it's done. So the story is still being written. And we are working on it. Now, what did this do for people's careers in networks is also a beautiful story. So at the beginning, on the left-hand side of this slide, the radio team that was doing this was between 10 to 15 people. At the right-hand side of this slide, the same team is now on its way to be 150 people. It has R&D centers, ramifications into silicon R&D, collaborations with nearly every company in the industry that has anything to do with either silicon or radio. And for people's career, it meant a lot, not only in terms of promotion and ambition, because yes, as you may imagine, it's a bigger organization, much wider, much richer in kind of the skills that it needs. And that is actually the most important part, because it also means that for the people, it provides an immense opportunity to learn new things and to develop themselves in different fields, not just the niche field of the classical radio alone, but from software to silicon to integration to how you design the platform inside. So not just for me, but for many people in the team and in Vodafone, this actually turned into an amazing career opportunity. And the key was, and still is, to make it happen, not to invent it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So over to our Q&A. So again, please do put any questions for Yago using the Menti code here. What an absolutely phenomenal journey you've been on. And I think as we saw, the innovation, trailblazing, I mean, it's been a big 10-year journey for you. So were there any sort of big challenges or mistakes that you made, and how did you navigate those and learn from those from a career perspective?
Yeah, I try to summarize, some of this because in reflection, this is the learnings that you get. So, going backwards through them. So one of them is, not only patience, but knowing the right pace. So pacing yourself. So if you understand that it's about making it happen, it's not about whose idea it was, which is the first learning. Then the second most important thing is to pace yourself. This is a marathon. It's not a 100-meter sprint. And as a runner, I can understand that. So if you try to sprint a marathon, what happens, you can only imagine. So very often things go wrong because people picked the wrong pace or try to sprint it. The industry has its own timing, and you need to understand, you need to feel it, and you need to make it happen at the right pace. Otherwise, the resistance, will be too big, and you can't overcome that. So that's one thing. The other thing in general, as you may imagine, is both in the details of this technology as well as in everything we tried with other technologies, is very often you fail, and that's all right. You just need to learn how to fail faster and to kind of then incorporate the feedback onto your project and keep going. So it doesn't matter how many times you fall, you just get up, one more time. I would say on that, you need to pay a lot of attention to the critics. You need to understand where they're coming from. Usually, because they are very smart and there is clever people, they have a point. Even if, and that's what you need to ascertain, they may have an agenda. So their point may not be entirely fair, or they may be, coming, from a not entirely fair position because they're biased and they have an agenda. But there's still a lot of value in the criticism. So you need to take it with you and use it to make your project stronger. And last but not least, remember, is never about engaging in a fight. Like when the haters hate you and when the doubters doubt you, you don't necessarily need to prove them wrong. Like in this case, our choice was to accumulate data points from the field. So when people is saying this thing will never work because the energy consumption will be awful, we weren't working like in answering them. We were not engaging or picking a fight. We were simply publishing our KPIs and saying, well, this is what we see on the field. This is the energy consumption before, and this is after. Oh, it's better. Okay. So.
And then look at the result you had, where that your haters then, those years later are then in the news and supporting and backing and.
Listen, like everybody needs space, and Vodafone is no different. We behave in the same way. So when there is a change that is disruptive, the best thing that you can do is to create space for everybody to be successful. It's not about convincing them. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about working with them, making them successful. Remember, if your ambition is, as it was in this case, to drive the industry to adopt an entirely new architecture, that is very disruptive for everybody. Imagine that disaggregated stack. So if you are a vendor you were selling an aggregated stack and making money and a margin of the hardware and the software and the radios and everything else. And then suddenly you're squeezed into one layer that is much thinner because it's just maybe just the software, or the hardware is general purpose. The radios, you suddenly have 50 competitors where there weren't any before. Of course, there is resistance. But if it's a superior architecture, the industry will eventually take it. You just need to make sure that everybody is successful. You need to give people a chance. So, sorry, I mean, we're not a non-for-profit organization. It's not about. So we defend our own agenda and our own business for the right reasons. But if you want this to happen, you need to create space for everybody and give them a chance.
Yeah, I love that. And like I've heard you say as well, keeping that space for people, but keeping focused on your outcome as well and what you're trying to achieve. What advice would you give to somebody who's starting out their career in networks?
Many. So decide which area you're going to start building your career on. Make sure that you become really good at it. Don't hesitate to share everything with others, and make sure that like you benefit from others sharing their knowledge and expertise with you. Learn from them, help them learn from you. And when you think that you reached like the top, or at least the kind of upper 10 percentile of expertise in your domain, then decide how you want to progress. If you want to make it wider from where you are, learning about adjacent topics, or if you want to jump and start in another domain of networks. Classical, that can be radio and then core, but it can also be hardware and then software. So think of technology in a slightly different way from the classical organizations. And if you are starting your career, I have another piece of advice for you. Learn how to code. Or if you already know, then make sure that you are fluent in the languages that are more trending.
And any advice on the languages, types of languages? Or
I think, well, I mean, as of today, I think no secret, Python, Java, for instance, these are kind of high currency now.
Lovely, thank you. Wonderful, great advice. We've got a question from the audience. So how do I navigate to advance my career as RAN engineer to become cloud RAN engineer?
There is one beautiful way to do that, which is through Open RAN, now that we are talking about it. So, and it's not the only one, but it's a very nice one. So in the stack that I showed before, when we have to abstract the hardware and put the software on top, there is a thin layer that was marked there in a different color that says abstraction layer, something like that. In reality, that is a Kubernetes kind of layer where you're going to put your software on top as a in a container that runs into a general purpose hardware that can be Intel or ARM or something else. So what I'm trying to say is that Open RAN is transforming the traditional radio into a cloud radio. And it doesn't matter if that hardware sits in a data center somewhere or on the side, or if it's all together, or if it's not all together. That is secondary. The important point is that Open RAN requires very solid skills of cloud to be successful. So if you're good and fluent on radio, maybe you want to just drift into that, use and leverage your radio skills, acquire the new cloud skills. And once you're proficient, then you can go to core and do the same on a data center for running, core CNFs on top. That would be one route I would recommend.
Brilliant, that's lovely, and I hope that's helped our audience member with some hints and tips. Got another question here. So does real data of spend from past years explain the percentage savings with ORAN? And how do you respond to those stability concerns of emergency services requirements?
So the answer to any concern is always the same. It comes back to to our experience. So when we rolled this out in 2021, we were ahead of everybody else. We rolled it out on the field. That was following a lot of scrutinizing and testing and lab testing. And obviously, it wasn't the first time that we put our hands on the technology. As I said, we were reasonably sure that it would work. But the thing is, since 2021, this has been on the field providing service to our customers. First in 4G, then 4G and 5G, then 4G, 5G Massive MIMO. And nowadays, just a few weeks ago, we incorporated 2G into the equation as well. So now we have a complete system, 2G, 4G, 5G, including massive MIMO. Now, all our kind of knowledge comes from the field. So we not necessarily, we listen to everybody, but we don't believe what others say. We just deploy it and we see it working. That goes with performance. That is the same with stability. That goes with energy consumption, and that also goes with savings. So when we run an RFQ in the UK, I can tell you the total cost of ownership of the Open RAN system that we are deploying today, all things considered, and it has, the general purpose, and it has the abstraction layer and the software and the radios and the integration that you need to actually do for have this working, it actually amounted to less than what we are paying for the average base station in the rest of Europe. So that's not where the 30% is coming from, but the total cost, you would expect it to be higher. It was lower.
Wow.
Right? And there are a lot of reasons for that we obviously examined and understood. Now, where the 30% claim is coming from is a combination of, well, A, that, B, what we know about the evolution of the hardware and software that we are driving and we are part of. So we know what's coming in the Intel roadmap, what the next kind of generation of silicon is going to do. We know what's coming on the software that Samsung is going to bring and what sort of efficiency we can expect. We are modeling all that, and we can extrapolate and predict, hopefully with enough accuracy, what the Open RAN system is going to look like in a year from today and 2 years from today. Even 3 years from today with less accuracy, definitely not 5 years from today. Yeah. Now, that is another component that we know where the technology is going and we know the art of the possible. And the third one is competition dynamics. So as I explained in the very first slide, we are running out of choices. And when you only have 2 choices in the ecosystem, A, the price stops going down, and B, innovation stops happening because there is no incentive for these companies to innovate at the same pace. They're not going to win any new market if they put more money on R&D. When you bring a new option, you change the dynamics. And then not only the pricing kind of gets more fluid, more importantly, there is more innovation. And innovation drives down TCO far more quickly than commercial competition. So that's where kind of our prediction of TCO savings come from.
And that leads me really nicely into another one of our audience questions. So what inspires you to carry on with new innovations?
It's my job. I love it. Listen, I every morning I get up from bed and I think I have the best job in the industry. Is a luxury to sit where we sit, and we're obviously supported by a team like mine, which is a luxury to have, but also with the luxury of being in the middle of all the technology industry. So I talk in 3 weeks, I'll be in Santa Clara with Intel, Dell, Google, Meta, Apple, etc. I talk to all of them. Sometimes some of them, they come to us for advice. We have a real influence on the evolution of their technology. On the other hand, we also talk to the Huawei's, Ericsson's, and Nokia's of this world. And thanks to Open RAN, to many more people, like, from Fujitsu to Samsung to NEC to many more people. It's a beautiful job where you have an unbelievable opportunity to be sitting in the center, knowing, influencing, learning, and exchanging, your engineering ideas with the best people in the world and making an impact as a result. So that's what inspired me, just keeping going.
So passion, love for the job, making an impact, and a really great team surrounding you as well. I think we've got time for one more question. What key skills, experiences, or qualities do you think are most important for someone that's aspiring to be part of our networks team?
I think there is a set of the most important is your values before your skills. How you relate, how you work with others, how much trust you put in others, how much trust can others put in you, how ambitious you are to get results, and what drives you, what is your purpose and your long-term ambition. That is far more important than anything else, because the skills you can learn. You can learn how to code, you can learn radio, you can learn core. It's not complicated. You can learn all these things if you have the right technical background to some extent. There is not one background that you can have. You can have many different, from solid state physics to telecoms engineering to mathematics to economics. You have some base, mathematical and otherwise, then you can learn a lot of these things and a lot of different technologies. As of today, I would say, maybe answering your question in a different way, non-traditional skills that are becoming more and more important. Software is one I mentioned before, and the underdog that I don't think we are factoring well enough is silicon. So normally that's been taken as granted as a completely different supply chain and industry where things get delivered to you and then you use them to compose bigger systems. That is no longer the case. You have to integrate yourself, downwards through this chain and reach out to silicon, influence the very design of it. That is the new world that we're going to be living in, and having skills that go as deep as silicon design will help you.
Lovely. So you heard it here: silicone, coding, get on. These are some of the skills that will really help, and having those real values and those soft skills as well. We are out of time. A massive thank you, Yago. What an absolutely inspirational, phenomenal story, and sharing that journey of Open RAN. I've loved hearing it. I hope everybody on the call has enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everyone on the call for your questions. So welcome back. Now we're going to head into the second part of our event. And as mentioned at the start of the call, we've got 4 absolutely inspirational leaders from networks who are going to come and talk to us all about their careers. So I've got an absolute pleasure to introduce our panelists today. So I will hand over to each of them just to tell us a little bit about themselves and what their role is in networks. So Antonella, can we start with yourself, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. So I'm Antonella Fagnuolo, and here in Vodafone, I'm the head of network planning, delivery, demand, and transformation. And basically, in a nutshell, what my team does is to translate strategy into actionable market plans. So my team is very distributed across the whole of Europe, plus Egypt and India. And what we do is we create the investment strategies in networks to go and build and then coordinate also the delivery of very complex projects. So I joined Vodafone in 2019, but I've been working in the telecom sector for the past 21 years. Before Vodafone, I spent some time, 13 years with the network vendors, then 3 years with the regulators, and then I joined the networks in Vodafone, first in UK and now in this global role in Europe.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Mabel, can we hear from yourself, please?
Hello, thanks, Laura. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mabel, and my role currently at Vodafone is Head of Digital and Zero Touch Operation, which sounds really exciting, but it's actually more exciting than it sounds. So what we do, I'm part of the network operations team, and what we do is to enable the digitalization and the autonomous network to make all those changes that Yago was talking about. So we help all our peers in the different domains and verticals to digitalize the way that we do things. So we touch a lot on cultural changes, processes, but a lot of cool technology that I'm sure you heard about, and the latest is Gen AI. So that's my role today. My journey to get here is slightly different to the traditional. So I have also been in Vodafone for a long time, more than 15 years. I'm Spanish, but you can tell by my accent. But I really love traveling, and I have been so fortunate to be in Vodafone, working in 3 different locations, not Spain. I work in Ireland, I work in UK, but I also adventure going into a sunnier place like Australia. And I've been throughout the 15 years experience, I done around 7 different roles. So I've started my career more in the system integrator or consultancy on the IT. I joined the network team as a hybrid, networks and IT. Then I moved into networks. Then I did innovation. I moved into the IT, and now I'm back at networks to join that IT and networks. So that's been my journey. I'm super excited to be here today with all of you.
Wow, amazing. And that just really demonstrates how much opportunity there is in Vodafone technology, and how, there is really amazing opportunities, so much opportunity to change and do different things. What an absolutely interesting career you've had. Ian, can we go to you next, please?
We can. Hello, everybody. I'm Ian. I look after network, cloud, and automation in Vodafone Network Strategy. So I work for Yago Torio, who we heard from in the previous session. And so within that strategy and architecture team, we, funnily enough, set the strategy, defined the architecture for network cloud, which is the cloud that we deploy to support our big network functions. And the way I explain this to my family is we're like the bread in the telco sandwich, in the network sandwich, right? So the first slice of bread, that's the network cloud. So compute, storage, networking, cloud software, and then you can put any network function or filling onto your sandwich. And then the second slice of bread, holding it all together, is the automation, the orchestration, and the operational systems that drive us towards a sort of closed loop automation thing. And we do define the strategy and architecture, but we also help our engineering and operational colleagues to deliver the cloud and operate it in a stable manner. How did I get here? I did a degree in electronics and communications. I've tried to get as much experience, a broad range of experience as possible. So I've worked in mobile operators, fixed enterprise operators, vendors, systems integrators. So I kind of have a broad span of experience. But my heart is in operators, really. I worked to start with in Vodafone UK in delivery and engineering, and then I moved into the strategy and architecture team, doing what I think is the best job in Vodafone, strategy and architecture for network cloud. So that's me.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And last but most definitely not least, Finny. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Hi everyone. This is Finny. I would start with I'm the filling. So with the bread, I'm the filling. So I'm head of mobile data core engineering, and I take care together with my team to design and deliver anything that has a relationship in the networks with internet browsing, 5G, our well-known SecureNet service. So we work in close collaboration with Yago's team, so with Ian, with the bread. We work together with operations, the automation piece, and so on. That this is Mabel, and of course with Antonella and the team, we take the plans and we make them happen. So this piece in the middle of the sandwich that Ian was very well describing. My path till here, I'm Spanish. I guess this is also noticeable as Mabel's accent. And I started in the industry more than 20 years ago. So time passes very quickly. At Vodafone, I think I've been doing most of the roles in the career path. So I started being an engineer, learning a lot, becoming senior in the role, moving to project manager roles, then moving to management, so people management, and operations, engineering, and a bit of everything.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What an absolute breadth of experience we've got on this panel. So I just want to take this opportunity to, again, remind people on the call, please do submit your questions on to Menti for the panel, because we will move into a Q&A session later on. So Antonella, I'm going to start with yourself. Why networks, and why specifically networks in Vodafone?
Sure. So first of all, I'm passionate about technology. So of course, a network is a great opportunity to cultivate that passion. But what I like the most is also that there is an opportunity to then work with other departments. For example, in my role, I work very closely with the business. So this means also tackling all the technology challenges that we have from different perspectives. And then, of course, in terms of Vodafone, we are a big corporation. So this means, I mean, as you can see here on the panel, we have different nationalities. The team is spread across different countries. So there is really a wide cultural richness that in Vodafone you can experience, and also a global scale. And also, it's really, really interesting because you can then leverage, you can use your skills to then tackle this big intellectual challenge that we have associated to innovation. But then you can also become very operational, so you can also be very close to the execution. And of course, being a big corporation, you can also experience different roles and different things while you are in the same organization. Of course, I mean, the environment is great, very flexible as well. We are now all in a hybrid working setup. So it's a mix of working from home together with meeting colleagues in the office. So it's great fun overall.
Fantastic. Fun, passion, and like you say, that opportunity to work. You can, when you all introduced yourselves, you're all collaborating and working together, and amazing. Finny, what about yourself? What interested you in a career in networks?
Well, when I started in networks, mobile technology was something very new, very unknown. So natural curiosity about how does this work? What is behind? So, and this is how the journey started. Definitely. Curiosity,
passion, fun, some really great words coming out. Ian, what interested you in the networks career?
I've always been interested in networks, and it's going to sound a bit cheesy, but I'm going to say it anyway. So from a sort of early age, I've always sort of wanted to help people to be able to communicate. And so as a kid, in the UK, inevitably you would have relatives in, far-flung locations in Australia and New Zealand and South Africa and goodness knows where else. And every Christmas you'd save up to be able to make a long-distance international phone call to Australia with a very echoey, clicky, delayy. But it was kind of mind-blowing, that you could do that. And then you'd put the phone down and go into the next room and watch the crew of the Starship Enterprise on Star Trek making high-definition video calls across vast, interstellar tracts. And today we think nothing of doing a high-def video call to the other side of the world on Teams or Zoom or FaceTime. But that's kind of where it piqued my interest in networks, and that's why I chose the degree course that I did, and why I picked the career that I did. I told you it was cheesy.
I don't think it's cheesy at all. I think it's rather lovely. And lastly, Mabel.
Yeah, so a few ingredients, and also linked to some of the purpose of Vodafone. So for me, what really, really makes me wake up in the morning and be super happy and loving being in the network teams is, first of all, technology, secondly, people, and thirdly is this fast change that happens both into the people and technology. Those three ingredients I love. So I really love technology, and networks is an area that evolves very, very quickly. The people also, being an international company, as Antonella mentioned, the breadth and the experience and the learnings you get when you collaborate with other cultures, other areas, super, super key, and how it all's changing. And as Ian said, for our best moments in time when you want to share things, and also on some of the most difficult things, the telco and the networks play a critical part in society, and I really like that as well. So I really love the purpose that we bring, to society. So I'll join that cheesy. Yeah.
No, it's not. We're going to be making people hungry on this call. We've talked about bread, we've talked about sandwiches. We're now talking about cheese. Everyone's going to be. I love that, and I think Vodafone is at the forefront of technology, isn't it? And we've seen all this innovation. It's absolutely amazing. So, Anton, I'm going to come back to you. Can you tell us a bit, how do you ensure what is happening in networks reflects what's the Vodafone priorities and how they tie in together?
Great question. And as I said at the beginning, yes, I'm passionate about technology, but I don't believe in technology for the sake of technology. So we are there, to deliver value to our customers and to the society. And in order to do that, absolutely, we need to work very closely with the business. If you think about our priorities now as Vodafone, of course, we have a customer at the center of whatever we do. And this requires also from networks perspective, a customer-centric mindset. And, to your question, we work very transversally. So our technology experts have to learn, how to collaborate with different functions, so that when we deploy a new technology and we invest in innovation, also we understand how to deliver value to consumer, benefit, businesses, other parts of the society. So that starts really at an early age. So you can imagine, we invest a lot also in building our own processes, governance, also in instilling agile ways of working. And then at the same time, we try to simplify. And, sometimes it's very exciting about introducing new technologies, but also you need to work on your legacy and making sure that you balance, while you introduce 5G, you also need to work on dismissing legacy technologies like 3G, so that you really make space and you reuse your assets in the best possible way. And of course, we also want to stimulate more growth, especially in the business segments. Anything that we do in technology, we do it in conjunction of other departments and colleagues across the business.
Fantastic. And hearing that, what kind of skills do you think would somebody joining into the networking, what would they need?
Well, there is a set of hard skills. And as Yago explained in the first part of the talk, yes, you can choose your area and then you can build on that, and then you can expand. Of course, internally, learning is a very, very important piece of what we do. We invest a lot in upskilling our colleagues. However, that's not enough. So in addition to that, there are a lot of soft skills that also need to be enhanced. So one of them is collaboration, as I mentioned, but also communication, so being able to translate very difficult technology concepts into more universal language, so that other people in other parts of the organization are able to relate to. And even if you think about roles in my team, we have hybrid skills, mixed skills. Some of them you learn on the job, really, hands-on. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. We have people very close to strategy, so the problem solving, analytical skills. Then we have also people working in planning that are interfacing with the finance. So in that case, their financial skills are becoming better and better. Then we also have project managers, and they are really working on introducing agile ways of working, new ways of working. So it's really a mix of a skill set. And I think, this is not just about technology, it's really about adding that business acumen that we all need to be very effective in a network role.
Yeah, sounds like a real, like you say, a real balance of the two, the hard skills and the softer skills. And talking about skills, we're in Vodafone Technology, we're really committed to supporting our colleagues to develop, giving opportunities. And one of the initiatives that we have is the technical career path. And we're super lucky today to have somebody on the panel who is part of that. So Ian, could you just share with us a bit of an overview? What is the technical career path?
Sure. Yeah, the technical career path is an absolutely fantastic scheme and initiative in Vodafone, and it recognises and rewards and leverages the importance of technical skills to a technology-based company like Vodafone, and it recognises that not everybody wants to progress their career by the sort of, I don't know, traditional management route, which perhaps might be that your career advances in many companies depending on the number of people you're managing or the enormity of the budget that you control, and that's how people have progressed since time immemorial. In a company like Vodafone, which has and needs, in many cases, absolutely world-class experts in technology, those experts don't necessarily want to, move from doing cool stuff with cool technology to managing lots of people and huge budgets, and nor is it necessarily the best use of their skills and expertise in Vodafone. So the technical career path is sort of a sort of separate technical career track, if you like. There are 7 levels to it, and as you develop skills and experience, you can move on up the ladder. The snow-capped summit of this is level 7, which is Yago Torio, who we saw earlier on, who's the first Vodafone fellow. But there's a practical purpose to it as well, which is, yes, it recognizes people have got expertise, and that's nice. It rewards the fact that people have got expertise, which is even nicer, but more usefully for Vodafone, it actively allows the technical expertise to be leveraged to Vodafone's benefit. So, for example, in terms of defining our strategy, we do I think next year we're doing the traditional 5-year strategy refresh, and the technical career path community will be front and center in the definition of that, whereas perhaps previously that might not have been the case. It also, I mean, from my personal experience with this, it also makes these super technical, super expert people visible and available to the business and to business leaders who may not have previously realized that these skills existed. For example, I was attending one technical career path panel, because you've got to earn this, right? You've got to make your case and in front of a panel of senior executives, right? It's taken very seriously, and super busy senior executives take time out to assess the people applying. But the chief technology officer of Vodacom, which is the group of markets that we have in Southern Africa, and I think Egypt is part of that now, was on, and he contacted me afterwards about two or three of the guys that had gone through and said, Ian, I had no idea these people existed. How can I use them? I need their help, to drive my business forward. And so as a result of that, we now have a regular fortnightly forum with his team where we can bring those skills to bear, which perhaps were not previously visible to him. So it's an absolutely fantastic scheme if you love tech and you don't want to manage millions of people, and you don't have to pick one route and stick with it. You can go and focus on technology for a while, and then if you want to do management, yeah, you can, but you wouldn't be using your technical skills there so much. But I hope that gives a good insight to it.
I mean, fantastic, and fantastic seeing the value of those technical skills as well. But you talked about, not always going on the one route. How have you balanced developing your technical skills with that managerial side?
So most of the way through my career, I was the technical expert in a particular subject, what's sometimes referred to as an individual contributor. I was the advisor to the CTO or the chief technology officer or the CIO on a particular subject. So I had depth of expertise in particular areas. I now manage a relatively small team, about 12 people of technical experts, and many of those folks have gone through the technical career path at high levels. So I'm doing a bit of both. So you can have a kind of hybrid approach. It would be tricky for me to manage hundreds of people and still, bring technical skills to bear. But you can take a management approach. You can take a technical approach. You can take a hybrid approach. It's great to have the flexibility. So I've kind of got the best of both worlds at the moment. I've got, doing super technical stuff with a small team of super technical people, but not all those people want to manage people, and nor would it be for the best interests at Vodafone. So it's not one or another. Pick a train and that's it. There's the flexibility to do one, both, or all three. In fact.
Yeah, amazing. Again, testament to the opportunities that we have, within Vodafone technology.
Absolutely.
So Mabel, Finny, Antonelli, you're also leaders within the organisation. How have you balanced that technical versus managerial? Mabel, can we start with you?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Laura. So I say, as many of my peers, and also we heard from Yago, you're learning. So a career is a journey. So you don't suddenly learn, and I'm now a manager. So throughout my career, when I was an engineer, a single contributor, I was more of a doer. And then you start bringing things along and coaching those teams. And as you grow, you're a bit more outside the doing. And then what you need to learn and get good at is, to make sure that you build a team that you trust, a team that complements you, that fills those areas that you are not anymore the expert. So as you grow, you become more of a coach, and your experience help your team, your peers to, the journey. And then really you are very much based on your team and also your network that you have made throughout your career. So I say it's a learning. So initially you might find it a bit challenging because you really, all of those of us that love technology, love, touching it and making it happen, as Yago said. But, the journey has, we learn through the journey, and then you find, how you are adding the ingredient, as a manager, I will say. So that's, how I will describe it.
Lovely. That's great. I love that journey that you've been on. And Finny, what about yourself?
Well, to build on top a bit of what Mabel already shared, I think being in networks and being in a technology company is inevitable that you need to be up to date in what is going on regarding technology and how do I do this while my role is now with higher focus on the managerial pieces. You have to talk a lot to all layers of your organization, to peers, with our vendors. There are sometimes events that we can attend and feel what comes next, what is new, what I can incorporate in my day to day. So bring with new ideas. And then definitely I agree with Mabel on the managerial pieces, how you move. And I think I like to tackle this point because many people ask me in the past, how you move from a very technical role into a managerial one. This is about having the ambition to grow in others. So delivering through others. And of course, something that is fundamental is having or enjoying a manager that takes a risk on you. There is a moment that there is this shift. So someone has to see that you can do it. You can do the shift. And on the managerial piece, something that has been instrumental for me has been coaching. How to improve certain soft skills, work on your self-awareness. The more you know about yourself, the more you will be able to support others, because being a people manager means help your team to deliver, help your company to reach their objectives, to create or to make happen this vision somehow.
I love that, and obviously both yourself and Mabel have mentioned coaching, and you can clearly see your passion about the success of others and coaching and supporting, and really that team and collaboration is really coming out again. Antonella, what about yourself?
So I think there is a little to add here, but it completely resonates what Ian, Mabel, and Phineas shared. I think, yes, it's a journey. It's a balancing act as well, because you learn then how to enjoy managing others. And then I have to say, I'm now very comfortable with letting others being the experts in many topics, but you learn how to do that throughout your career. And I completely agree on the coaching style. So extremely important. I believe that the whole contemporary leadership across the industry is now moving towards basically setting the directions, but also making sure that by asking questions, the team is able to find solutions by themselves, because usually these are better solutions than when they are just, top-down solutions. So that's the journey.
Absolutely wonderful. And I think, Antonella, you touched on earlier our hybrid model, and we're all about balance here at Vodafone. We work from home, but we come in to connect and collaborate and meet with our colleagues. We've got lots of flexible working in place. So can we talk a little bit about that work-life balance and how you navigate that work-life balance? Antonella, let's start with you.
So for me, it's kind of easy in the sense that I love my job, but there are also a lot of other things outside work that I absolutely value. So I always try to make the most of my non-working hours. And, I'm very eclectic, so I change my hobby quite frequently, maybe tennis, yoga, reading, traveling, photography, art. So I won't mention everything there, okay? But I value that, the time that I spend doing what I love outside work and spending with family and friends, it also helps building my personal resilience. So I'm actually a better person when I'm at work. It makes me more creative, more innovative, more empathic as well. And, of course, there is the odd weekend over the year where I need to be online, I need to deal with work, but I try to be very intentional about ensuring that these are exceptions and not the rule. And I think it's even more important when you manage people, because it's important to set the example to everyone in the team.
Sounds like you're striking the right balance there, and it's
fine,
and leading a good example. Ian, what about yourself?
Well, the barometer that I use to sort of assess where I am on my work-life balance is the happiness of my dog, really. So before lockdown, remember that? I used to come into the office 5 days a week, whether I needed to or not, i.e. if I didn't have any meetings, I'd still come in on the basis that something interesting or unexpected would always happen. For example, one Friday I went into the London office and bumped into a fairly senior networks person who said, "Oh, I'm going to Istanbul on Monday, and do you want to come with me?" And I think, all right. Now, and I don't, I'm not saying that happens on every time I go into the office. I get invites to exotic foreign capitals, but then lockdown happened, right? And we had to get good at working from home, and we did, I guess, and we were super productive, and the dog loved it, because every morning, I could take him out for a run or a walk or whatever. Extremely pleased, and then with lockdown over, started coming back into the office a bit more, and I'm fine. I'm going the other way now. I'm in probably 3 days a week, and I find it super useful, kind of for the same reasons. I generally bump into someone I wasn't expecting to, or a conversation happens that catalyzes something that needs to happen or hasn't been happening. So that the dog is, he's not happy about the 3 days, but he still gets the other, particularly long walks at weekends. But I'm sort of going back the other way now. I'm finding going into the office to be just as useful as it was, but still valuing the ability to choose, right? So I might do 4 days a week and 1 day another week, and that the hybrid working policy that Vodafone has is fantastic in that respect.
So you can see different approaches, and it's just like you say, it's not this one size fits all. We've got the flexibility to adapt with how, what works for you. What about yourself, Mabel?
Yeah, so it's a topic that I really enjoy talking about, because often throughout my career, I felt the balance was not correct. And maybe it was because I'm an engineer and I like metrics, and it was, I love all of this and I want to allocate the same time to all of it. And it's not possible. So I learned throughout my career that the quantity doesn't matter, it's the quality of the things that you care about. And then it depends on the life cycle that you are in. So I'm a mom of 2 kids. When I had my young kids, where they needed me more, so they're a bit older now, so they don't need mommy as much, I felt guilty all the time. And I remember one of the coach telling me, Mabel, it's not about the quantity of time you spend with the kids, right? There is people with their kids all the time and they turn on the TV, right? They're not present. It's about being in the moment and enjoying and the quality of the time. So I had to learn a lot on that, to be happy. But yeah, for me, it's really important work. I love working and I love what I do. And sometimes I get sucked into it, as Antonella was saying as well. I love my family, and fortunately I have a family here, but also abroad, and traveling is a bit more logistically problematic. But yeah, I love spending time with my family and friends, and then there's other hobbies I like as well, which I have to say I'm really happy for over the last few years that I'm much better in terms of my going back to reading. I couldn't do for a few years after having kids. I don't know, I was too tired probably. But yeah, so some of the cultural stuff, the people aspects, family, friends, and also the work are doing, and it's a balance, and sometimes it's not 1/3 in each one part of it, and learning that for me has been a huge advantage. Yeah.
It sounds like you're getting the balance right. And mum guilt, mum guilt is definitely a real, and dad guilt, I'm sure as well, is and dog guilt is a real thing. And Finny, how are you sort of balancing?
I think mom guilt, we could write a book.
Yes.
So there is a full journey there. I really think the current setup that we have with the flexible time, the hybrid working, and something that for me also plays a role is number of days that we have along the year that we can work from a different location. This really helps, especially with long school holidays, things like that you're trying to keep all the balls in the air, but you're limited with the number of holidays that you can somehow be off. So all this really helps. And what is also important is what Mabel just mentioned, be there when it really matters. So I can give an example. Tomorrow, it is in my diary that I will be attending in the afternoon with my one in the middle workshop at a school, science. So I will be there with the little ones preparing something, and this is thanks to the flexible time that we have. And tomorrow I will be working from home, simply because this will make easier for me to be on time at the school. While I remember that years ago, I was feeling very guilty because there was traffic jams, a day that is raining. So you are very optimistic in your plans. And as Mabel said, you cannot be everywhere all the time and reaching perfection. So the balance matters, and you accepting that you cannot be perfect, it also matters.
And like you say, we've come such a long way, and I think that what we have in technology really it's amazing, and how we can balance and structure and have work and home blended, and I think it's a really fantastic offering. And we know there's still much more to do in the diversity space, and we're committed to inclusion for all within technology, and we're trying really hard to create a workplace where everybody can be themselves and everyone can have that sense of belonging and thrive. So Finny, Mabel, can you share any ways in which you've overcome those sort of challenges? What support or anything you've received that allow you to keep progressing, not just in Vodafone, but as a whole as well?
Yes, for me, I would like to talk about the support. So I think I've been very fortunate that none of my managers never thought that because I was going on maternity leave, because I have kids, I could not do what I'm asked to do, what I'm asked to deliver, to be present when I need to be present. So this is a fundamental piece in my career journey, and I can share that I was promoted right back from a maternity leave. I took a different position 3 months before I was due to a baby. So these type of situations, maybe you don't have it everywhere. So I think the way we embrace diversity really matters. So my experience in Vodafone has been awesome in this aspect.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thanks, Finis. So very similar, but different in the same way on my experience. So I really think when I think about what has helped me and I link it to diversity, I touch upon on the guilt, on the being perfect, which sometimes helps me, but sometimes doesn't help me. And I often, throughout my career, got really, really good mentors and coaches, to push me towards areas that I'm uncomfortable and to see it in another way. And that is bring by diversity. So Yago has been one of my key coaches, and he really helped me to, when I was very young, to believe in myself, and to put me in a place, to start asking the why not. So I think diversity brings the best of a team, because then you meet somebody else who has a different viewpoint, and then you learn, and it'll give you, allows you, to grow. So I see that a lot. And then also, as Fini said, I've been very fortunate. So I have 2 kids, as I mentioned. I got my maternity leave and I was based in Ireland, and my husband got a job in UK. So I moved to UK, I think it was 8 months pregnant, about to deliver. And the nurses were like, oh, I thought you were just 12 weeks. We just need to look for an appointment for you. And then 5 months with my first kid, we moved to Australia to start a job there within Vodafone as well. So again, Vodafone has been a great support on my career, throughout, my maternity, also allowing me to do what I love, exploring different cultures and different environments. So yeah, I think the diversity side of things has played a key role on my career in Vodafone.
Lovely. And it sounds like, you were both saying that mentoring and support and network is really, that coaching as well has been really, really instrumental and important for you as well. Thinking about the future, what's in store for networks at Vodafone? What excites you? What's going back to that passion? What are you most passionate and excited about? Antonella, what's?
So from where I sit, the future is super exciting, and this is because as a company we are going through a transformation. So there are a few changes already, and I mean, if you think about networks, we are at the center of this transformation. So I see, and it's not just about launching new technologies, but it's also about a lot of new ways of working. What Yago has presented in the first part of this panel is actually very relevant, because Open RAN means also to deploy networks in a different way. And I think one of the most exciting aspects will be the ability to partner internally, but also across the industry. And Open Run is a typical example, but we are full of that, a partnership with hyperscales, but also partnering with the small companies, innovators in the market. And then if you think about networks, it's really about also transforming our networks so that it can be available to these companies and these innovators so they can access, ideally we want a very agile, transparent, accessible networks. So yes, the future is very exciting from where I am.
Very exciting. Anyone else? What's getting you excited for the future?
Well,
Ian?
I mean, just picking up on, Yago was talking earlier on about what is, in some ways, the sort of cloudification of RAN. I work at the sort of other end of the network in he was talking about, data center cloud, where we're, working very closely with Finny to enable her to launch 5G standalone core, which is only coming as containerized software, which offers, the softwareization, if you'll forgive me, of our networks, offers potential to be able to innovate in an agile manner, and create services quickly that we don't know what they are yet. We can design and develop them and get them to market much more quickly in a much more agile fashion than we could previously, and it's that sort of that potential that we can do things that we haven't thought of yet much more quickly, which I get really quite excited about. So that's what I think.
Amazing. And again, back to that innovation and trailblazing. We're going to move into the panel part now. So again, just a reminder on the call, please do use the QR code and submit your questions onto Menti. If you've got any questions for the panel, please do ask away. I'm going to move to our first one. So what advice have you got for women that are starting out in the tech industry? I think we've heard some of your experiences here of juggling, childcare and, moving countries, and what other advice for women starting out?
I can start if you want.
Yeah.
So for me, two things, and we touch on those. The first one is love what you do and believe in what you do and in yourself. That's something that sometimes I don't want to genderize, but it is sometimes that we don't. It takes a bit of time for us to believe in ourselves. So Finny was talking about, how much you need to understand about yourself so you can help others. So really much that one part. And then it's all the inside yourself, but also create a network, and your coaches who's going to help you. So through that journey, enjoy the journey and meet, the people that are going to stretch you and help you throughout the journey. For me, those will be the two things. Love what you, well, it's three actually. Love what you do, believe in yourself, and then through the journey, make sure that you find the right partners, coaches, and people.
Back to that support network again, isn't it? And that.
Yes. I would definitely add also, when you are looking to start your career, also check the cultural fit with the company that you are joining. Be open, ask about their policies. The policies are the enablers. So openly, check what they have. Do they value training? Do they value well-being? Small things can actually make a big difference. For example, one initiative that I really value, I really appreciate here in Vodafone, 4 times a year, we have a full day completely dedicated to well-being and training. And then the beauty of it is that you can use the day as you like, as long as you don't reply to emails, you don't have meetings, you really focus on investing in your well-being, maybe a run, maybe a yoga session, but also you train yourself. Now, the beauty of it is also that you can personalize your training, and this helps also personalizing your career progression. So you can identify some of the areas where you want to invest a bit more, and through a platform that we have internally that is all about growing yourself, then you can also customize your learning experience, and I think this makes a big difference. And then, of course, I mean, networking, Mabel mentioned that, super, super important. I think, sometimes it's not necessarily about career progression. It's about really having a safety net where you compare experience, you discuss challenges, and ask for feedback. And for women, also very important, own the space. Sometimes we are not used to do it, but, learn how to do it, train yourself.
Any tips on how to learn or train yourself? What have you done that's helped you do that?
So, I mean, personally, I went through formal and informal training. So, of course, for example, coaching training, super important because it helps building your resilience, but also training about spotting biases so that you can actually train yourself to recognize good behaviors and bad behaviors. And then you can really drive that cultural agenda at all levels in the organizations. This is extremely important. And also, I mean, I learned probably a bit late in my career to build a good network, but as soon as I started, I realized the value of it. And also, identify a few people that you think can really share with you their experience. I've been lucky because I met some people who have been very generous with their time, but sometimes even 20, 30 minutes, one-off meeting with someone where you have that open conversation and it can really change your perspective. I think, these are all things that are extremely, extremely valuable.
Fantastic. And I think it's just worth mentioning within Vodafone, we have employee networks, we have women in technology, and we have these exact forums that support and offer these kind of growth opportunities and sharing and networking. So there is so much available. And I being part of these networks and some of the sessions we have and hearing from women and their experiences is absolutely fantastic. Finny, what's your
a little bit to build on everything that has already been said, and that I fully agree on the networking piece. There is equally two other roles on top of mentors that are for me key. One is your allies, find your allies, and this could be colleagues at your level, could be people down in the organization, up in the organization, but it's these people that will surround you well when you feel down, when you have the need to share, something that is frustrating you a lot, to help you see things from other angles, perspective, help to move you outside of your comfort zone. And then there is the sponsors. This is equally something, as Antonella said, I learned late how important it is to cultivate your networking. And there is a piece on allies, there is a piece on mentors, there is a piece on sponsors, and specifically for women, because I think all applies to all genders. But there is a piece for women that is women networking. And this is still something like it's not fully there. So when you manage to create your network, you will be supported by others that went through challenging journey before you, and you're going to be able to support others and to help them to grow and thrive.
Love that again. And Ian, what about yourself? I think a big part, an important part is men being allies and supporting women in tech as well. And so what would your advice be?
I don't know whether it's advice or whether it pertains to the question, but it's an observation that I've had. I've had some absolutely fantastic young women come through my team on graduate placements, because Vodafone has a fantastic graduate scheme and apprentice programs. None of whom had qualifications, be it degrees or anything else in technology, or what I would think of as technology pertinent to Vodafone. So there's biochemistry, chemical engineering, psychology, all of whom with some training and coaching and mentoring have all gone on to do absolutely fantastic things in networks. and have become top talent, and so on and so forth. And I recognise that doesn't necessarily pertain specifically to women, but my point is that even if you don't have formal qualifications in technology, that's no barrier necessarily to doing amazing things in networks. And I'm sort of pleased to have been able to catalyze that in some way. And yeah.
Seeing so many great people coming through the apprentice and graduate schemes. It's again an amazing opportunity within Vodafone technology. I mean, the time has flown. We are very nearly at the end of our panel discussion. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. One last question, I think. From each of you, what do you enjoy most about working at Vodafone?
It's the people. I'm back in cheesy mode again. I'm afraid finished the way I started, but it's the people. I get to work with absolutely amazing people. I get to work with my fellow panelists here on a regular basis. But some of it is the technology, but the diversity of nationalities and cultures and genders and heights. I have some very short people in my team, and I'm very tall, so it's great to get that level of diversity. But I personally, selfishly derive a huge amount of energy from my team, like a Dementor in Harry Potter. I sort of suck the energy out of them. But working with fantastic folks that you can see here, and that's across all of Vodafone. You come into Newbury in the morning and spend all day talking to Madrid, Milan, Dusseldorf, Johannesburg, Istanbul. It's where else can you get that? That's what excites me about this.
Fantastic. Antonella, best thing Vodafone for you?
Absolutely, the people, the multicultural environment, but also the fact that we never stand still. So we change and we try to be ahead of the change in the industry. That's very exciting.
Lovely. People in the exciting forefront of what we're doing. Mabel?
Yep, people all the way as well. People. So amazing, like diversity, multicultural, the breadth of experience, the different backgrounds in terms of skills as well. So yeah, people, touching with everything else, but people is at the core if I have to choose one. Yeah.
And Finny?
People, sure. People. And how the relevance of the people matters on the way you work and you deliver every day, and how our way of working fits with my values and what I think is more important for me. So there is a win-win there.
Fantastic. I think we can see a resounding people, but complemented with all of the other things that we've been talking about. We are sadly at the end of our panel discussion. I just want to thank you all so much. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you all, hearing your experiences, and it's been absolutely amazing having you here. So thank you so much. Thank you again to Yago, and thank you to everybody on the call for submitting your questions and getting involved. There are some links on the screen, so you can find out much more about life at Vodafone and what it's like here by following us on our social media. So we've got LinkedIn, we've got Instagram at Vodafone Life. I always see some fantastic things on the Instagram page, and at Vodafone Careers on Facebook as well. You can also head to our career site to view our latest vacancies. As we've touched on, there are an absolute wealth of opportunities here in Vodafone technology. So please do go and follow us on our social media channels, check out our careers and go and see what we've got to offer. Thank you so much for joining the event. Thank you again to all of our panel and to our guest speakers. It's been a wonderful hosting and speaking and hearing all your journeys and stories. Super inspirational. And again, thank you to everybody on the call for joining us. As I say, this will be recorded, so the recording will be shared. But once again, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.